You are listening to the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast for Tuesday, October 16th. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast. I am your host this week, Colin Cooper, and this week I also have with me the rambunctious Rob Peterson.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rob. I also have with me, of course, the jaded Jordan Rusnak.
The treasure lies in Orion's belt.
It sure does. It sure does. You're sounding much better, by the way.
Why, thank you. I think I did a really good impersonation.
Of yourself, or me, or Men in Black? Or is it just kind of come down the line?
A redundancy of all those things, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's if you put those all together, that is what that sounds like.
Right.
Well,
right.
and I'm going to put a clip of your voice, that one you sent me, in at the end of this week's episode so people can hear.
Oh, do you have a recording of that?
Yeah, I recorded me
Oh.
doing the mock joking intro and you laughing your ass off. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. All right, we also have a new member with us, the newbie, Aaron Cole. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
Welcome
Quiet, scrub.
to the... Yeah, right. All right, put soaps in socks. Let's go. Come on. Anyway. All right, so, gentlemen, it's been kind of a big week. I think we can all be in agreement of that. So I'm sure we all have something to talk about. However, let's try to stick to non-topic games if we can. So, Rob, I'm going to kick it off with you. What have you been playing this week?
I've been playing so much shit this week that I'm just going to pick one and talk about that and save some of the other ones for next week. And the big one besides our topic game, because I haven't had a chance to pick up XCOM yet, is a game called Retro City Rampage. You guys heard of this?
Everyone's telling me about this game.
I want to play this game.
It is... How can I describe this?
Retro?
It's kind of. It's like they took an old GTA game and gave it like Super Nintendo or even NES graphics. So it's open world. And then they tossed in some like joking modern conventions. So it's this little 8-bit game, but you have like cover shooting and objective waypoint markers and all that stuff. And they just pretty much throw in references to games and pop culture from about 1985 to about 1995.
Yeah, I saw some Ninja Turtles 2 in there, I think, when I was watching the preview of it. It had like the deadly electric grass and the deadly little like shockwave beams when it was kind of doing some of the platforming.
Yeah, there's tons of little mini games in the game. And, you know, I'm only about an hour and a half in, so I haven't seen a lot of them. But like near the beginning, there's a part where it's kind of like making fun of the intro to The Dark Knight. You rob a bank and then hop in a bus, and you're trying to cross the street to get past the other buses that are driving by, so you can like join them in their little bus parade. And there's a dead frog in the middle of the road.
Nice.
Someone comments on that, and then it's like, oh, here's the Frogger section. Or at one point, you're running along, running from the cops, and you run over a sewer lid, and 4 Ninja Turtles jump out and start attacking you, and then you shoot them. Or you'll see like the Ninja Turtles van driving around town, and if you hijack it GTA style, you'll throw a Ninja Turtle out of it.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so far, I mean, there's been several Bill and Ted references, lots of Back to the Future references, and I wouldn't say the writing's amazing, but it's kind of funny and fun. The real star of the show is the gameplay.
This is heavy.
It's like all of your favorite old Nintendo and arcade games rolled into one game. And then, like I said, they jokingly toss in some like modern conventions. But
because we don't really want to go back and play those games for hours and hours. I mean, at least I don't, some of them. So does it feel more well put together? Like you said, modern conventions? Does that mean the whole thing's kind of feeling modern with the old look?
Yes, it's not like you have 3 lives and then you'll reach some really unfair part and lose all 3 of them and start over. The game has a lot more flow to it than those older games. It's what you remember those old games being like, as opposed to what they actually are like if you go back and play them now.
Right, super frustrating.
And basic.
Super frustrating. Like Ninja Turtles 2, that game was ridiculously frustrating.
Are you talking like the arcade version of it, or like the console
No, the
version?
one
The
the one
NES
that
version?
looks like that with the top down, like you drove around town in the turtle van, and then you get out and do platformer shooter like little levels.
Yeah, that was the NES version. That was TMNT.
Wasn't that Turtles 2?
No,
That
Turtles
was
2 was
one?
like Turtles 2 was like just the side scroller beat 'em up like the arcade game. Turtles
Okay, that's what I
1
was
was the one where you drive around, you go into the water, and no one could ever beat the
The
like you get
electric grass?
electrocuted and all have to
Oh, I thought that was
disarm
Turtles
the bombs.
2. Oh, yeah, that is freaking impossible. I beat that level once maybe, and then never again because you can't save at that point because it's an old game. So.
Yeah, this isn't difficult on that scale. In fact, I feel like the difficulty in this is pretty well done. I never feel like I'm skating through the game like it's too ridiculously easy, but it never gets frustrating at all. Except there is one stealth part that I'm assuming is kind of referencing the old Metal Gear games that is kind of tough to understand and really unfair. But I feel like that was kind of the point. Like they were poking fun of that at that style of game. So.
Do you run around with like a cardboard box over you at any time?
Not yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
That'd be awesome.
Can you rampage? Can you GTA style just rampage, like kill the marching band and leave one
rampage.
survivor?
You must rampage. The whole time you're driving around town, you're rampaging, and you get points for it. And like that's how you pick up ammo, and you can find health. Or I mean, there's side quests. It is very much a rampage game.
That style of gameplay, like I love, and that's actually part of the gameplay of the game I played this week, other than our topic game. But getting points and not really getting penalized like you do in Grand Theft Auto for running around and causing destruction. That's something that I truly love. Like that is an innovation that people have been doing now. It's like everybody loved doing that in Grand Theft Auto, but the payoff was you got killed in the end. Like I love games that now reward you like wholeheartedly for doing that action.
Have you guys played actually GTA, like the first GTA, the top down?
I tried.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the marching band moment? That's like my favorite moment of that whole game. There's always a marching band, and you could leave one survivor. So you flame throw them all, but you leave one to tell the story. So he's scarred for life. That was my at least intention.
Wasn't it in the first GTA like Hare Krishnas or something that you ran over, and then the second one is like Elvis impersonators? Like
there's a
string of
bunch of there's a bunch of different things you could do, but it was always I always left one, no matter what the group was, always one.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say earlier is. This, like, it's taking the piss out of GTA, but if you think of Saints Row made 8-bit and then filled with old pop culture references, that'll give you a pretty good idea of what this game is. And I super recommend it. It's $15. It's on everything. It's on Vita, PS3, and it has crossplay on those two, by the way. Steam, I believe it's even on the Wii Store and XBLA. So
Rob, you told me that you thought like Game of the Year contender?
I don't want to start talking about that until we get a little closer. But
yeah,
I think it's a must-own
that...
game is a better way to put it. Like this is a game for $15 that you need to have. It's a freaking blast.
Is it worth $15?
Yeah. Do we have any idea how long
it is?
What
did I just say?
I'm just saying. Like, I spent $9.99 on FTL, like, and I've been freaking sucking that game's dick for the last 3 weeks. So I'm just saying, like,
that's a good point. This game may turn out to be too short, but based on what I've seen so far, I don't think that's going to happen. So I might come back next week with a caveat that says, like, maybe wait for a price drop. But if this game gives me, 8 or 9 more hours of this, totally worth $15, unquestionably.
Okay. Cool. Anything else you've been playing this week that you want to talk about, or you just want to stick with that?
I'm just going to stick with that, because if I start getting into the other stuff, we're going to be here all day.
Yeah, it was a big week. All right, cool.
I
Thanks,
got
Rob.
all day.
Yeah, well, Jordan, let's go to you then. We don't have all day, but we'll give you some time. Jordan, what have you been playing this week?
Well, other than the obvious, I decided to throw in Just Cause 2, which I haven't played in a while. And anybody who has not played Just Cause 2 needs to go spend like the $10 it'll cost you to go get Just Cause 2 and play it. It's an amazing, like, speaking of Grand Theft Auto, I always describe it as Grand Theft Auto on steroids. You've got the whole island city of Panau, or the island country of Panau, which is actually a whole bunch of little islands and a main island, that you are there to cause unrest, political unrest. And you do this by going and destroying everything and causing huge explosions and killing people. And it is a lot of fun, and it's a huge, huge map.
What are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on PlayStation 3.
Oh, okay.
I have it for PC, but my little laptop is not quite powerful enough to run it on like the lowest setting.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun game. That's a really fun game. It's like
fantastic.
it only held my interest for a couple hours because I was playing on PC and I was fumbling a little bit too much with the controls because I don't have a gamepad. But I can see with a gamepad, it's probably super duper fun.
Oh yeah, it gives you that feeling of being that gun shooting badass really well because of the 2-weapon system and how you aim with that, and you're able to like put out suppressing fire and aiming dedicated fire at people at the same time, which is really neat.
Now, Jordan, we like, you know how like you always get on my case because I love prototypes so much. Does this game have a good story?
No, this game
Oh, okay.
has absolutely no story, and in fact, I can't even tell you. Like, I've never actually beaten the game. I simply get the game open enough to have all the areas. Which, hey, guess what? That means I put the disc in and go. I've never ever completed this game. I don't want to complete this game. I just throw this game in when I want to go have mindless fun, jumping. Go and get a helicopter, fly up to a jet that's flying by, jump out, use my grappling hook to hit the jet, go into the jet, then start shooting oil reserves off the coast and causing those to explode while they send Harriers after me, and then I have to destroy them, but then get blown up and fall like thousands of feet, and then open my parachute and repeat.
You sound like me talking about Prototype 2.
Yeah, I was about to say this is Prototype.
Yeah, that's like Prototype except you're human with like gadgets that make you just as badass.
And see, I've never spoken out against liking Prototype 2. I loved Prototype. I know.
I'm just saying. I just get a lot of a hard time from you about my particular love for Prototype.
Yeah, it's more the fact that you like the story of Prototype, and you tried to fight me for a while that it had story.
What I've always said is the story's enough to get me to another group of murder, like essentially.
Which is all any game story needs, I think.
Exactly.
Yes, it should just be a vehicle for murder. That's all.
You know, I was speaking about murder. I was talking to my mother the other day, and she's like, "Do you ever get tired of playing games where you murder people?" And I'm like, "Sometimes." Then I just use non-lethal and knock them out.
Yeah, that's good.
But I played some Just Cause. I put some time into Super Meat Boy, which is yet another game that everybody should own. I was over at a friend's house.
Sorry, I forgot to mention this. There is also a Super Meat Boy level in Retro City Rampage.
Awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Nice.
But I brought this game over, and I'm playing it on my laptop, and I have my laptop set up on a table, and I've got a group of like 5 guys all sitting there cheering everybody on while we're trying to beat levels and going through. It was a really cool time. And that's a game that everybody can pick up and play. You don't really need any special skill. You just need to learn the mechanics about jumping and running sometimes.
Now, are you playing that with a gamepad?
I have played it both ways. Whenever I'm having people play it for the first time, I have them play it with a gamepad. Yes.
Yeah, I cannot play it with keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, same here.
I like the fact that they come up when the game comes up. It usually has a gamepad and has some sort of saying underneath it. It changes every time. My favorite one is the first person to say the keyboard's better is getting slapped.
You know, I have yet to try it.
What?
And
man, put some time. Like, go get it. It's really a good one. I just learned how to unlock new characters, and the fact that there's warps in levels that put you into alternative levels that are themed towards characters you can unlock most of the time. So I'm now going through and hunting those down. You can have little band-aids you have to go and try to get that will allow you to unlock more characters, but it gets pretty hard. I mean, just the simple mechanic of running and jumping. I mean, that's why Mario is such a tried and true thing. It's really simple, but the levels change, but your skill set stays the same, so everybody can pick it up and play. And it definitely has some challenge.
I got to get a gamepad for my PC. I mean, I have my Xbox now again, but I just, as much as I do like Marketplace, I like Xbox Live, I hate that you have to use essentially like their Disney money. You know what I mean? Because you always it's like buy this much, but the game costs this much, so there's extra. You know, so I just hate that. Just let me use my credit card. But so I want to give out probably.
Colin?
What's that?
One word. It's my favorite word in the entire lexicon. Dongle.
Sex?
Yes. You can dongle sex. That sounds like it's something.
Yeah. You can get a dongle for your 360 controller that'll just plug into your PC, and you can switch back and forth between them.
There you go.
Oh. That's cool. I like the word dongle too.
Yeah, Rob and I have had text wars with the word dongle dangled, then it just goes from there.
Yeah, I thought someone was joking the first time they told me that. Like, I didn't know about that until I started using Avid editing system. They're like, yeah, it's a dongle.
All you need is the dongle.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just a newbie in the industry to make fun of me. Like, no, it's a dongle, dude. Like, oh, okay.
It plugs in, it's small. Usually has something that dangles from the dongle.
Right. This is a licensed dongle.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, you're a dingle.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's all for me this week, man. But
Okay.
I think that's enough. That is enough.
That sounds pretty exciting. So, Aaron, again, welcome to the Game Out Loud podcast. So, what have you been
Thank
playing
you.
this week?
I have actually been splitting my time up amongst the title game, but also XCOM and System Shock 2. XCOM, I have a love-hate relationship with the original one, and so far the new one has exceeded my expectations greatly.
I've heard it's fantastic. People say it's the modern version of what people want from the old game, right?
Yes, it's not the crappy first-person or third-person shooter that they had originally announced.
I think that's another game.
It is, and
yeah.
I'm happy to have this one instead.
Well, I'd want to play the other version too, like, because that's just how I am. I like having cake and eating it, which is a long-running podcast joke.
Yes.
Well, I mean, some of the complaints I had with the original game was just it was mind-numbingly difficult at times. The interface. I mean, I didn't play it until like 2004, so trying to go back to play a game from like 1994 is just really rough. And the getting past the user interface was the biggest thing, but since they've updated that, they've made it much more streamlined, much easier to use, and it's actually really, really fun to play.
Yeah, the original XCOM's like bust out your manual, right? I mean, yeah.
Like you don't even know what half the
interface.
buttons on your screen do.
Yeah, we've spent a little bit of time talking about that here on the podcast actually, and I'm as much as I want to like know my roots and play it, I don't know if I can go back and I just don't know if it'll be approachable for me.
Yeah, it's just so hard to go back to some of those games. I mean, they were great for their time, and so they have that, nostalgia factor. But if you didn't play those games back in the day, it's definitely hard to get your fingers into that hole, dude. Like, it doesn't work very well.
See, you can kind of be that way with System Shock 2, which I've been playing, because I mean that one's just like you play modern, like you play Dishonored, you play Deus Ex Human Revolution, much more streamlined. But it's still the learning curve on System Shock 2 isn't that bad because it's still a first-person shooter with RPG elements. So
It does. It has like
Get it.
yeah, it's a little bit of that like old Doom kind of thing where you're like you kind of feel a little lost because of maybe texture repetition or something, but it feels a little like where am I? Okay, this is this area, and then you can get turned around easy. But I think that is probably just a product of technological limitation at the time. But yeah, I'm playing it as well. So like for the first time, by the way. As well.
Yeah, this is about my third or fourth playthrough of it. So
okay, this is my first time to ever play through it, and obviously the similarities to like a BioShock, if you turned off the like go here arrow, are kind of similar actually, because BioShock, if you turned off that arrow, is kind of confusing as well actually, and I think that's why they put it on there, because it's dark, things look the same, and enemies come out like, so you can't just judge that you're in a new area by enemies coming at you,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing is just those 3 games.
How far along are you in? I don't want to talk too much about System Shock because we have got things coming up with that. But how far along are you?
About halfway through. I mean, I'm familiar with that game, so I can just breeze through it. But I've been taking my time listening to all the audio logs, making sure to explore. Plus, they've updated a couple of the texture packs for it, so it's kind of fun. Every time I play it, it's kind of like there's something new in it. So.
Yeah, I actually when I first started on it, I had some trouble because with some interface problems. I couldn't figure out how to just do some basic things on it, and it took me a while to kind of navigate that. I'm not sure. I think half of it was like an error. Rob, maybe you can help me out with this. Part of it was like an error that I had to put a patch on.
Well, you couldn't use things out of your inventory, which is you need to be able to do, and then once you run into your inventory, you couldn't switch out from that mode.
That's right. That was part of it for sure. So that was confusing, and so it took me installation, tutorial, and then in the game, and then troubleshooting was like a few hours. So by that time I was like, okay, that's a lot of time invested before I'm getting any real gameplay in.
Yeah, we've all been having
Yeah,
problems.
the Dark Engine is not exactly the most user friendly.
Right. Well, cool. Anything else you've been playing this week that you want to talk about?
No, those are pretty much the big three.
Cool. Yeah, I want to talk about XCOM a lot more once we've all played it, and I'm sure that eventually we all will have played it. So, thanks, Aaron. On to me. This week has again been a very large week. I have divided my time up pretty well though, because a lot of things have come out. I've not played XCOM yet. Started off the week with a little FTL. Loved it. Still loving it. Probably not going to pick that up though. I can see myself putting that down till January or farther though, because lots of stuff is happening now. But that was a great little kind of intermission game. But what I do want to talk about this game, besides the topic, is I've got, thank God, finally way off schedule. I got Walking Dead episode 4, and goddamn,
Good
freaking
Bad goddamn.
goddamn. I say goddamn. That game is ridiculous. I mean, The Walking Dead. Also this week, speaking of along the same lines, I read the entire Walking Dead Compendium 1 of the comic book. I read it in like an afternoon, like the first 50 comics.
Oh wow.
So that gave me like an insight into the world. It also made me realize how stupid the show is, like the television show. Because it's just the comic is freaking brilliant. The game is also brilliant. The TV show is mediocre at best.
So you think the game is on a level with the comic? I haven't read it yet. I was actually planning on picking it up today. So
absolutely, it's right on par with what the comic is. In a different medium, so it doesn't quite go some of the places the comic does, but it gets there, but it doesn't go as hardcore. I don't know. It's just a different story in the same world too. So you got to take that into account, you know. But
right.
I mean, for episode 3 was emotionally very devastating. Episode 4 is not as dramatic as episode 3. However, it's just the next step in the inevitable things that have to happen, and it's just great. The voice acting, I mean, I've said this 100 times, is so good. I feel like the moments in that game when I actually have to play, and maybe that's a downfall for it, are fine. But I almost would rather just always be in dialogue battles, because that's so interesting. And it's kind of cool too when you actually play and you kind of figure things out, but obviously that's very simple. Like you just have to search the area, click on everything, remember that something's over here and you got to bring that other thing to that other place, and rinse and repeat. And some of those actions are interesting, but what happens in between those moments are what's really interesting.
Well, this game at its heart is a point and click adventure game, correct? But that you have movement just in the means of your character moves around the screen, and then you interact with everything just like a point and click adventure game.
But it's so much more than that. There are moments, not even in dialogue battles, where they force you to actually click on things and click and click and click and repeat an action, say, like in this one. I don't want to spoil it, but where they make you repeat it because they want the weight of what you're doing to settle in on you. So it's click, close up on the face, click, close up on the face. And it's just like, at first you're like, why are they doing this? Then you're like, oh God, this is like a moment, like a real moment. And it makes you feel things. Like I made choices this last game that I made and then felt actually guilty about making.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I made the choice at the time, like I have to do this. This is for the good of the group or whatever. And then at the end, after that, I felt guilty. I felt bad about making that choice. I regretted it, but I'm playing this game in a way that when I make a choice, I have to live with it. You know?
That's good. I was just about to ask you that because I chickened out once and I'm ashamed of it.
I haven't chickened out yet.
I reloaded.
I haven't reloaded that game except when I die or something. But like, it reloads it for you. But what's crazy about this game is it does something different this time. At the very end of this game, it shows you the 6 options of who could be left with you. One of those options, this doesn't spoil anything, is just Lee. Did you? And it's like, you could have ended up with just you. Now you could end up with these other 5 options. And I was like, holy crap! Like, everyone possibly is gone, or just me. So it's like, and it's like every combination of like that you could think of with the current group, and they just show you that, like, what could have happened. You were this. Here was what could have happened, and it's like, wow. I mean, that makes the game feel like it really actually is building a unique experience for you, you know?
Yeah, it's extremely reactive, and that's actually something I'm going to want to come back to when we get to the Dishonored topic.
We absolutely have to have a whole episode about this. We all got to play it, like, get it through it. I mean, I've never. This is a game that's, like I've talked about, pushing the medium. This is like showing people that, like, games, like, fuck off. Games are now legitimate storytelling art, you know?
And see, I want to play this game so bad, but I told myself I wouldn't play it till it was all out.
I love the surprise of, hey, it's out randomly one day, like, no schedule.
Absolutely hate that.
If episode 5 comes out this year, I don't see how it cannot be my personal game of the year. I just don't know. It's not the best gameplay in the world, but I've never played a game that was more emotionally affecting than this game. So there you go. There's my diatribe on The Walking Dead, which is fantastic. So, anyone else have anything they want to add before we go to our break? Compliments, complaints, condescending notions?
Yeah, I should just say that when I was talking about Retro City Rampage being one of the must-own games this year, the other one I had in my head besides our topic game was Walking Dead. So I'm totally with you. Totally. It's amazing.
It is. It really, really is. I had low expectations for it, so that's the best. When you're like, okay, it's a point-and-click adventure game for that show that I kind of thought was cool for a second, you know. And now I've been sucked into that whole world. But anyway, I think we're going to take a break right now. Thanks, guys. Great first segment. So stick around for another episode of The Land of the Video Games, and we're going to come back and talk about a title we have been talking about for, since the podcast started, I think.
Yep.
And it's
awesome.
Finally out. Yep. So come back in just a bit and hear us talk about Dishonored.
Calling all adventure fans, stand by. Reverend Cooper is on the air. Adventurer Reverend Cooper with his sidekick Kiddo and Strudels the undead dog pursue the evil Dr. Zod through space and time to stop him from getting the secret to the ultimate weapon.
Climbing's fun and all, but my arms are like crazy tired, RC.
Nearly there, kiddo. There. That wasn't so hard.
Really? I sort of thought it was hard.
Look, kiddo. This must be what the compass was pointing towards. Natalia was right.
I mean, golly, who do you think would build a temple like this?
What? Kiddo, pay attention.
No, I mean, you gotta climb up everything just to get around? Who would seriously live here?
Kiddo, look at the treasure.
And how in sweet Susie are we supposed to get down from here? It's just... Holy horse sticks, RC, look at that treasure.
After the momentary lapse in attention, our heroes inspect the gleaming pile of treasure.
Look at all this gold, RC. We're gonna be rich.
I'm more interested in this parchment here. Wipe some of this dust off. Look at this writing, kiddo. Looks like this ancient dead language tells us how to get the ultimate weapon even faster. We can get there before Dr. Zod and ambush the evil lunatic.
Where'd you learn to read all these dead languages, RC?
Dan Brown. Brace yourself, kiddo.
Oh, what now?
The pillar beneath the men's feet starts to tremble and shake. Disturbing the treasure has caused the pillar to recede deep into the earth, taking our heroes along with it. When they reach the bottom of the long and turbulent ride, they are reunited with Strudels, the dog, and Natalia Turncoat.
Well done, Reverend. I see you found the treasure. I knew you would.
Well, it wasn't easy, you know. Thanks for watching the dog.
It urinated something that looked like battery acid.
He's a good boy. Oh, son of a... Who just shot me?
Hit the deck, everybody! Looks like some of the museum security followed us down here.
As the large military force storms into the hidden temple, our heroes take cover behind a conveniently located series of stone walls.
I don't think this is museum security.
Hold on. Hi-ya!
Reverend Cooper, with the accuracy so stunning it borders on the supernatural, fires 6 rounds from his recently acquired handgun, each bullet piercing the eye, throat, or genitals of the would-be assailants.
Nice shooting, Reverend.
Thanks, but I'm out of bullets. Maybe now that they've seen what we can do, they'll be willing to talk. First, I'd like to know exactly who we're dealing with. Those guys I shot don't look right. Kiddo, pop up and see if that's museum security.
Is there any way you can do it? I'm sort of bleeding here on account of the huge bullet hole in my arm.
I can't see from here, kiddo. Just do it real quick.
I don't think that I can, Oh, sweet God, I've been shot yet again.
You're all right, kiddo. What did you find out?
Being shot really hurts.
Let me try something different. Hey! Stop that shooting for a second!
What? No ways.
Are you after the treasure?
You guys got treasure? We didn't know that. We just supposed to kill yous.
Oh, fantastic.
Who do you work for?
I don't know, I'm a hired goon. Let me check the contract. Guy's name's Zod.
I should have known. We can't let them get their hands on that parchment. If Zod had this, he'd be at the ultimate weapon in no time.
Hey, if you guys are done with the questions, we gonna kill you now.
They're coming around. Get ready.
The fight of the century erupts deep below London. Reverend Cooper takes out 9 or 10 men with a single kick. Natalia's sensual frame does things to goons that they'd rather she hadn't. Strudel's ferocious undead bite fells more than one of the men. Even Kiddo, with his previous wounds, manages a few solid right hooks.
That's all of them. Everyone all right?
Oh, jumpin' jalopy, see? I seem to have gotten shot about 12 more times.
Be strong, kiddo. God. Hell gets you to a hospital, lickety-split. Oops.
Ow.
Sorry there, kiddo. Dropped my gun.
Oh, that's all right. What's one more bullet? I'm gonna pass out now.
After rushing his young partner to the nearest medical facility, Reverend Cooper and Natalia quickly leave Strudel's guarding his bedside and find a cheap hotel. There, they partake in a celebration of their success so graphic and depraved, it would appall even old perv stash Andrew Ryan himself.
Well, that hit the spot. Spark me up there, hot stuff.
Happy to, Reverend.
Boy, Natalia, you sure know how to sex.
Now, could you please hand me the parchment, Reverend?
Sure. Here you go.
With the parchment in hand, Natalia Turncoat removes her disguise and reveals herself to be none other than the terrible Dr. Zod himself.
What the?
Fooled again, Reverend Cooper. Now, with this parchment, I can get to the treasure even faster. I've nearly once a day.
But we just... Oh my God.
To the time machine. And with that, the evil maniac disappears. Will our heroes be able to stop Dr. Zod? Will Kiddo recover from his critical injuries? Will this be yet another sexual escapade where Reverend Cooper is forced to black out? Find out next time on Reverend Cooper in the land of the video games. Adventure fans.
All right, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the latest episode of the Land of the Video Games. But now here on the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast, we are going to talk about a game that we have been waiting for a year and a half, some of us, maybe more, some of us, but at least we've been talking about it since the podcast began last March. This is a game that is a tried and true formula. It is a stealth, open hub kind of world where it's not an open world, but it's an open level that has many choices and many ways to accomplish your goal. As you know, because you're all very well-informed gamers that are listening to this, I'm sure. So, Rob, I'm going to start with you because you actually introduced me to this genre of games. Now, I know that you're a lover of this type of game, and this is kind of right up your alley. You've been a fan of these games pretty much since they started way back in the day, and we'll get to that probably through this discussion. And so why do you think that this game is really important in today's market and in today's game world, and why are you drawn to it?
Well, important's a good way to put it, because I think this is genuinely a return to a type of game that was extremely influential on the industry that kind of disappeared or went in another direction over the last 10 years. I think that for me personally, the thing that draws me into these games is their ability to build these beautiful, consistent worlds, not necessarily an open world that you can explore, but a world that is open within the context of the level you're on. It allows you to explore at your leisure and kind of do things outside of the point A to point B fetch quest, as well as build a greater world around those levels. Like when you see journals lying around in Dishonored, or you see the audio recordings lying around that flesh out all this backstory, to me, the combination of all those things build a world that is extremely immersive. It has a sense of place. Well, I mean, there's a reason they call it the immersive Sims genre with Deus Ex and Thief and System Shock. It's because it's about making a place for you to go explore, and a simulated place, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, no, totally. That absolutely makes sense. I mean, when I say importance, I guess I mean, I feel like games of this nature, especially when they're as big and as heavily marketed, is important because it kind of does reconnect us to a type of gameplay and a type of choice we're not really seeing a lot today, in that specific way. Like we've got Skyrim, we've got open world games, but we're not given a game where we're seeing like an interesting way to move about an open environment that has verticality, has choices, has I don't know, just all the ways you can attack a certain objective. I think you see that rarely. Like you see that in Deus Ex Human Revolution to a different degree, I think, and you see that in other games, but other games want to focus their efforts more because, and it makes sense because they want to focus their efforts more because it's hard to develop a game, and the more open you make it, the more difficult it is, and the more easy to break the game, as they so eloquently put it.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have a game that is made like that, you have to account for a lot of different things, and that's a lot more work for a game, and people will make these games, and they're not as long, I would feel, as a lot of other games that had similar elements, but more geared you. I think it takes a lot more time to put as much into a game like Dishonored to give you the feeling that you're not going through these levels and that you're actually finding these different ways instead of, like I think someone was mentioning earlier, your Human Revolution. It felt like you're either doing the hacking, the stealth, or the fighting. And one thing I'm finding about Dishonored is that I feel like I am finding these different routes. And as I'm playing, I was thinking about the fact that it doesn't feel like this is the way I'm supposed to go. Like I am just exploring, and I happen upon things. And to make a game like that, I assume that they have to build each level based on what you could possibly have at that time. Which, they don't want to have the level built for a specific build. So there's all these plethora of ways that you can run through, and I think that's just an amazing thing that they don't do very often because it would just take too much to do for a lot of games.
Well, I mean, as they said it themselves, like, I mean, they didn't really mean it necessarily. They did in a way and they didn't. But, come break our game. We can't wait to see what people do because, like you said, Rob, this is a sim, essentially, or it wants to be a sim at its heart. So what it's trying to say is, here's a sandbox. We're going to give you a specific set of tools. Go play.
Yeah, and I want to point out that it's not a sandbox in the way that a GTA is a sandbox either, because
Right.
I think the tools are a lot more specific. There's a lot of design that went into thinking about the different ways you can kill a guy or knock a guy out or traverse through a level or the order you can do things, rather than making kind of this something that feels sandboxy because there's so much going on and there's helicopters crashing and you've got the police chasing you and all that stuff.
No, totally different. I think that, first of all, yeah, that's a good point to bring up. I mean, there are different ways. People will throw that word sandbox around a lot. And I think that's because there are different versions of a sandbox. You have GTA Sandbox, right, which is this chaotic world. You even have like Halo Sandbox, where like there are tools and physics in a world and weird and crazy things can happen. And you have a game like this where it's a sandbox because it's not as open. Yeah, helicopters won't be crashing, but I can totally avoid a group of guys. I can kill them. I can knock them out. I can dump their bodies in places. I could totally pass over entire things. And not even know they're there, and it
you
doesn't
will.
matter. And I will, yeah, of course, and I will. And your objectives even are how you choose to make them happen. So I think there's a sandbox element to that, at least. I mean, a true sandbox would be something like Gary's Mod, but that's not a game as much as it's a tool.
Exactly.
So, Aaron, we haven't heard much from you on this. What's your take on this?
Well, just on the whole like level design, or like,
well,
the greater concept of it.
The greater concept, what we're talking about, like this idea of it as a sandbox, as a sim, as an important thing we don't see very often.
Well, I think one of the problems is that the reason we don't see it often is just because, let's face it, a lot of people would rather take the easier route in a game. And this game, I think, is going to appeal to more people because that easy route's there. The easy route's always going to be there for you to do. But for the people that want the challenge, for the people that want to do something different, they've enabled it so that you can actually go and take those different routes. But this also makes me the question is, when they designed it, did they take it like, let's just build a level, let's just make it the way we want it, how it seems, and then we'll just see how people go around it. Like, people actually, like, let's see how they play it, see what they do. Like what you were saying earlier with, like, break our game. Like, if they pretty much just designed the level for it and said, okay, have fun, knock yourself out, and just see where it can go from there.
Speaking of the testing of the game, or having people play it, I remember listening to something about it on another podcast, and they were saying that when they had to give people direction nowadays, like, people are geared to just like look for the direction, like the arrow or something like that. They would have playtesters go up to a guard, and a guard would be like, oh, well, this area is closed off, you can't go here, and they'd be like, oh, okay, and then just go the other direction, instead of, okay, well, how can I think my way around this? So I don't know if it's so much choice, but how games have shifted people towards thinking when it comes to how levels are created. But I really wish that I was kind of geared that way sometimes, and then, like, when I play a game like this, be completely blown away with it. Like, wait, I can go behind that guard and get up there? Yes!
I totally agree with that. For me personally, though, and I'll get into this a little, I don't want to quite get into this quite yet in the discussion, but there were some things through the marketing that I thought were promised to me that I didn't get, of things where I was like, oh, can't go here. Well, fuck you. I'm going to go over that rooftop. Oh, okay. Invisible wall. That's fine. Like,
and there's a few of them.
There were elements of that where I'm like, I can't go right there, but it's a flat surface. Like, they can blink there for sure. Oh, there's an invisible wall there. Okay, that's fine. But that's a minor gripe, and I want to get into that later. But I do want to kind of transition us into, obviously, we've already mentioned it. This game is not the first of its genre. It's been heavily influenced by a lot. I want to start, Aaron, I know that you're a huge fan of games of old, of Thief, of Deus Ex. So how do you think this compares as far as a modern version of these, or do you think that this is something? Does this stand with those games, or is this just kind of a rehash?
I don't think it's a rehash. I think it stands kind of in its own. It's standing in its own, but it's also standing next to it at the same time. I mean, when I'm playing it, I'm feeling like when I was playing Human Revolution, I'm crouched down most of the time. I'm sneaking around trying to do things. You get the elements of Deus Ex with that. You get the elements of Thief when you're doing non-lethal takedowns and hiding the bodies and looting the environments. I mean, when you're at the High Overseer's office, the entire thing has a Thief 2 vibe. I mean, you see the Ordinators, and they've got their masks. You've got just the general aesthetics of the environment. It's a very Thief-like, and Thief is one of my all-time favorite games. But it's like every single thing there makes it feel like Thief, but it's not making it seem like, oh, they're ripping it off. It's like capturing what made Thief and Deus Ex great, but putting it in something completely different and fun.
Right. I mean, well, Rob, what do you think too? You're a big fan of this. I mean, is like, I personally, because I'm going to say this before you even say this, Rob, I think that this is a better version, the best version of this genre I've personally played, but I was a late comer to the genre. So I approached these later, having the dated issues of those games be a problem.
Well, I don't want to throw this on the pedestal with Deus Ex and Thief yet. I think that's going to need some time to kind of percolate in the back of my mind. But I will say that I think it commits itself to the same kind of ethos, like we talked about earlier, of simulation, of world building that those games do. And yes, like Aaron said, like it does reference Thief a lot. In fact, there's an extremely overt Thief Easter egg late in the game that I won't spoil. But, you know, you have these kind of religious factions in the background that are very Thief-esque. I don't think this is a spoiler because it's been in all the advertisement stuff. There's this character called the Outsider who very much reminded me of the Trickster from Thief and fulfills kind of a similar narrative function. But I do think Dishonored has enough of its own personality that I can separate it from those games. I would say that unlike Human Revolution, or not Human Revolution, Invisible War, or even Thief 3 to a lesser extent, which felt compromised, Dishonored feels like something that really stands with those early games.
Well, Jordan, what do you think? I mean, you're a fan of old, obviously, as well. I mean, is this something, do you feel the same way? Is this something that is not yet to be put on a pedestal, or does this just not even hold up?
I think it depends on like where I'm looking, because I did play all the Thief games, the Deus Exes. It is most definitely better than Invisible War. I don't care who you are. And if you like Invisible War, we need to have a conversation, friend. But as far as putting on a pedestal, no, I think I'm with Rob. I think it has a lot of great elements to it. But all in all, if we're putting anything on a pedestal, if anything's been on a pedestal, I'd say it's that nice old tried and true Deus Ex and Thief. This guy makes good use and pays homage to those games, but it's not groundbreaking to me in any way. I think it's a good game. Personally, I'm not really caring about the story. I pretty much, I believe, have the twist figured out like from the beginning. I'm not playing it for story at all. I'm having fun with using just the mechanics. And I love the fact that it is not a sandbox world, but a sandbox level-based game, giving me individual areas that I can, figure my bits out in. And choosing the different ways, like the first mission I played 3 times over, choosing 3 different routes and going 3 different styles. I did non-lethal, and then lethal, and then a combination of both for each one. And it was a lot of fun, especially, just seeing things from a different perspective going through the non-lethal way, because I went lethal first, because that was fast-paced and I could learn the level real quick.
Right. Well, I mean, the obvious comparison here, like for the modern gamer, right? Let's take the whole gamer spectrum here of age-wise. I mean, a lot of people are going to say, okay, they're going to immediately compare this to Deus Ex Human Revolution because that came out last year, had a great and very widespread marketing campaign, and they had a lot of very similar promises. They really did in their marketing. You know what I mean? This is a game where every level is going to be this open hub. Well, Deus Ex is a little more hub based, I guess, as far as you're in one place and there are many objectives within that one place. Instead of you're going to a place, there is one main objective with lots of side quests. So there is a little bit of difference in that, but they marketed the same way. This is a game where you can play any way you want, and there's so many different ways to attack your goal. In my mind, there is a happy medium between these two games, because Deus Ex Human Revolution did some things that I really liked. I think Deus Ex Human Revolution is not as good as Dishonored, personal opinion.
I completely agree.
But I do miss things like hacking, things like dialogue battles. I miss some of that action, some of the heavier, and the gunplay. Obviously, I don't mind that it's not there because that's a total style and world choice. But that brought out a different kind of combat aspect. Obviously, the sword and like up close melee stuff kind of takes place for that in Dishonored. But I do miss some of those elements. Now, I think Dishonored is much more open. I think Dishonored gives you more real and organic choice of how to attack your objective. But I think it does. And it doesn't hurt Dishonored. That's the thing. It doesn't hurt Dishonored. It's just because of Deus Ex Human Revolution that I miss those things. However,
since you bring up the whole dialogue options thing with Deus Ex, I mean, this has probably been so far my only major gripe about Dishonored. And it's been a gripe for a lot of gamers for quite some time now. And it's why did they insist on silent protagonist? That is something that's been criticized in so many games. I mean, in BioShock, it kind of was overlooked, but it's getting laughable in having silent protagonists, and I think they could have developed Corvo as a character a little bit more, rather than what I've been seeing so far. I mean, it just feels kind of
I don't think it's laughable.
Any major character development for him.
I don't think it's laughable.
I feel like they've really missed a chance to do that.
I actually have a pretty strong opinion about this, because I actually think for this particular game, the silent protagonist was the right way to go. And the reason I think that is because your Corvo can be so different based on how you play that if they had slapped a personality onto him, it could be completely incongruous with the way you've been playing him.
Well, all they would have to do is record several different lines and do it on a scale. They already keep track of how much chaos is going on in the world.
But Deus Ex does that.
But then you make him sound like bipolar if you suddenly decide to switch styles.
Yeah, but if you want to be like that,
they gave him a voice in the marketing. They gave him a face and a voice in the marketing campaign. I was expecting it from the marketing campaign when we had that video of him in jail and the outsider comes to him. I mean, they gave him that already. So I thought we were expecting that already. And by the way, just going back to Aaron's point, I like to say I don't think the silent protagonist is laughable at all. I think it is incredibly a useful tool if done correctly, like anything. And sometimes it's done incorrectly. And I think this game, personally, Rob, I do have to disagree with you on this. I do think it could have used some more dialogue.
Well, I think, you guys bring up Deus Ex as a counterpoint. But look at the two main Deus Ex games. You had the first one where J.C. Denton, who was a completely monotone, no personality guy, so anything you were doing in the game made sense because there was no personality coming through. Well, if you're going to have a guy with basically no personality anyway, why does it matter? In Human Revolution, you also had Adam Jensen, who was kind of lacking in personality, and there were moments in that game where his reactions to things seemed strange to me. It's like, that's not the Adam Jensen I've been playing as, and I have a pretty specific narrative in my head of what Corvo's personality is like for my first playthrough and for my current playthrough. My first playthrough, he was a very different guy and treated situations differently than the second one. And if you put dialogue and a personality on top of that, all of a sudden, maybe it doesn't mesh with what you've been doing.
I think you say that, though, because we saw Adam Jensen's face. We saw, it went to that camera perspective. But if you just stayed on and you gave lots of different dialogue options of voice acting, I think if the intent was there, the basic intent, was there behind the words for more dialogue, I think you would get that still, and you wouldn't have that convoluted, who am I? This doesn't really work with me. But with seeing Adam Jensen, I think could have confused that.
But, even having a silent protagonist, if you take a game like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I mean, your character doesn't speak at all in that, but you do have many, many dialogue options, and they do kind of add to the character. True. Even that would have been preferable to just having complete and utter silence.
Well, yeah,
there are some, obviously, but...
Yeah,
I feel the silence actually like pulls me away from the character. Like I don't feel that my choices there have much of a difference. Like I know they have a different choice, but personally, whenever I choose something, I'm like, okay, I'll choose this.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have impact.
It doesn't. And Rob, I'm not saying that Human Revolution had good voice acting. I didn't think that at all. I didn't like Human Revolution. I'm going
I never
back and
asked
giving
for
it a
this.
chance. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I feel that if they'd put at least some effort into the voice acting, even if it was as minuscule as having your character like just respond like in grunts a little bit, like yeah, like, just something along those lines, because I really feel that it pulls away from the character. I mean, they do a lot of stuff to make you feel like you are that character, like by pulling the mask off and stuff like that, and that I appreciate, but that makes me feel dragged in, but not this silent guy. It just kind of pulls me back out. It's like, okay, no, nothing.
It doesn't pull me out too, because Jordan, I have to agree with you on the story. It's there and it's fine and it serves its purpose. I think it's more interesting than some stories, so it definitely doesn't hurt it at all. But it's surface enough that I'm like, yeah, okay, like get me to mechanics.
I want to differentiate here between story and plot, because I think everything you just said is true of the plot, but I think the story in Dishonored is actually excellent. The building of the world, the little environmental situations that you stumble onto where you find a journal that tells about something happening and you can look around the room and see the evidence of that.
Doesn't that come more into the world itself instead of the story?
I would put that under story and writing. I just don't think it's the plot. And I agree with you guys. I think the plot in this game is serviceable and okay, but it's meh.
Maybe I'll take that argument. That's a good way to put it. The plot sucks, but the story's good. Like the overall thing that they have built is amazing. I mean, I love the art style for one that they've used. This sort of like oil painting-esque bit. Like you can just sit back and any scene with any sort of beauty can be just absolutely appreciated. And even the things like looking at the tall walking guys, the guys that seem like they were influenced by Half-Life or Half-Life 2.
A lot of it does.
Oh yeah, but those guys in particular, the tall boys or whatever they call them, like watching them, I sat there and watched one for a while just because I could, and the way they move, how they interact, it's all really, really well done.
Oh yeah, beautiful, absolutely. But I think that's just a matter of semantics. It's like, I guess we're using.
It totally is. It totally is.
I think I would call it the world. This world they've created is very rich and very deep and super interesting. The little stories you overhear. I remember. I'll wait. Never mind. I'm going to save that for the spoilers section. But the little things you read, the things you pick up as you play, it makes it feel like there's a grander world outside of what you're playing, and there's a very rich game world. It's just the immediacy of the actions and the intent are semi-shallow, but that's such a side note to what this game's about,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's just kind of go around robin real quick, and I want to get everyone's just very concise, try to make a paragraph essentially of your impressions of this game. Rob, I'll start with you.
Overall, I'm extremely, extremely happy with the game. I love the level design. I love the combat. I love the stealth. I think all the systems work really well and are equally valid, which was a big concern of mine, because I think that kind of balance has been a problem with these kind of games in the past, like all the Deus Ex games and stuff. I think my main problems are, like I said, with the plot, and I think the last level is anticlimactic, but those are small enough things I can sweep them under the rug. I would definitely recommend this game, and it's probably my favorite game of the year so far.
Okay. Gameplay wise, sorry, just to specify, or I mean, is this your game of the year so far?
So far, it's my favorite game of the year, and there's been some awesome stuff, and we'll see what comes of Walking Dead, but I think the combination of everything, the gameplay is really great, and like I said, any approach you want is equally valid. I'm playing a combat run through now, which I totally avoided last time, and I'm loving that just as much. And as we were just talking about, the world building, which is equally important, is just really, really there. So my two big check boxes that I wanted them to hit, they knocked out of the park.
Nice. All right, Jordan, what do you think?
I think that the tools they give you to run around this world are very unique. I would like to see a little more variety of stuff, but I realize the difficulty that would cause, and I think that what they give you is very fun to use, having the ability to stop time, possess people, blink, basically teleport from point to point, as long as it's, horizontal is interesting. I don't like the fact they really limited your blink ability vertically, but I think overall I understand why, and it's an amazing game that people should try to pick up and play. I think it seems like a game that I will go back and play multiple times, so it's got a pass for me as well.
Excellent. And Aaron, let's finish with you on your thoughts.
Well, aside from Corvo's character development or lack of that I mentioned, I really do have to say that so far, this is my game of the year at this point. I mean, the gameplay is incredibly engaging. Like Jordan said, I'm probably going to replay this thing about like 3 or 4 times in different like non-lethal playthroughs, doing completely different things, just trying to be the biggest dick to every single person in the world. I think the gameplay doesn't get stale, even though it only has a set amount of weapons. I think that actually adds to it. It gives people like more options to utilize every skill that they have. And I really think this game's probably, I would hope at least that it tries to revitalize this genre and try and get more games like it, because this is really amazing.
Nice. Yeah, and myself, I think this is an incredible game. And like I said earlier, the reason I asked my first question is because I do actually think that this is an important game, because I feel like contrasting this with what I talked about in our first segment of The Walking Dead of being, I would say that's equally important in a different way of story. This game is very important in the way that people think about playing a game in a modern sense. I think there's a lot of games that are very popular that want to streamline things for people, and I even mean that for something like Skyrim in a way. I really do, because I think even Skyrim, as open as it seems, is really kind of it's a beautifully done rinse and repeat. There's a level of choice in a game like this that is unique. Like, I think Jordan kind of hit it on the head when he was saying like, oh, can't go this way, and people would turn around, or unless during the marketing campaign they had told people, and I wish I hadn't heard it, about possessing rats, possessing fish. I wish I had gone on blackout, because that would have been a wonderful surprise that I know I would have found and tried and tested. And I'm not all the way through the game, and I hope there's a surprise in there for me of something I haven't found. I'm not sure if there is or not, because of the way they did market it and the way I paid too much attention to it properly. But I do think it's important that people start thinking like this, and if this game's successful, which it looks like it is, seeing more of this would be really refreshing for a style of game that I don't think is it's like a genre that's not seen very often. We see first-person shooters, we see RPGs, we don't see this as much, and I'd like to see this be just as much as a forefront runner in the genre, or in the industry, I mean, because that would be great. So anyway, are there any last thoughts on the general gameplay that we want to get out before we end today's show?
Buy it.
The Shadow Killer ability is good enough to just make me smile every time I kill somebody.
Pretty much. I mean, honestly, the best thing for me in that game was just accidentally alerting a guard, like he turns around, and then seeing my character put my hand over his mouth and just shove the knife right through his throat. Like, just little touches like that is just like, oh, awesome. So I didn't alert any guards.
Ah, yes, murder. Anyway, guys, I want to mention that if you're listening to this and you have played the game, please do stick around. After the credits, or after the outro here, we are going to be doing a spoiler section on this game, so please stick around. If you played the game, again, it's a spoiler section, so heavily advised not to listen if you haven't played, because it is worth your time to find out for yourself. Anyway, I would like to thank everyone for coming on today's show. Aaron, thank you, and again, welcome to the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Jordan, as always, it is my horrendous pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
And Rob, go fuck yourself.
Thanks, Colin. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anyway, I'm Colin Cooper, and this has been the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast. Now, we would love to hear from you, of course. So please email us at gameoutloudpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our Twitter page, which is a very active Twitter. So please hit us up there, and we will probably respond right back to you because we're really, really nice like that. And that is at GameOutLoudCast. And we also have our new iTunes feed, so I think everyone needs to kind of start to think that they want to transition over to that. Our old iTunes feed will, of course, be dying off pretty soon. And you can also go to GameOutLoudPodcast.com. Jordan actually set that up for us. Am I saying that right, Jordan?
Yeah, www.gameoutloudpodcast.com. For those of you who are using a podcatcher, just add /feed.xml to that, and it'll automatically populate for you.
Excellent. And, of course, we are the Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast, so please go to bagofgames.com, check us out there, and check out Bag of Games, which is an excellent website in and of itself. Anyway, that's it for this week. It's been an excellent show, guys. Love Dishonored. Love what you've been playing. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to the Game Out Loud podcast, episode 6.
You gotta stop. I can't take it anymore.
I'm actually recording this for your intro.
Oh my god. All right, guys. Welcome back. This is Dishonored. Non-honorable, non-formal, spoiler section of the game that we tried to do about 30 minutes ago and had some technical problems, so now we're just kind of barrel headlong into this spoiler section. So here's the deal. I'm going to start with a little story I had the other day in Dishonored, and we're going to kind of go and let it spin off from there. So there's going to be a lot of stuff you don't want to hear if you haven't played the game, so turn it off right now. Seriously, you want to enjoy it.
Spoiler, you're going to kill people.
Damn it, Jordan. Lines.
I just want to run it some of it for some people.
So one of the coolest things I personally experienced in this game was I was in the mission where you have to go kill one of the Boyle sisters in the at the masquerade, which is you're wearing a mask, so how convenient. You fit right in. So off to the right of the building, I go in, and there are a bunch of weepers. Now, weepers are, of course, essentially the zombie-like figures that slightly change up some of the enemy gameplay. I turn the corner, and there are 5 of them. Just sitting there, one of them sees me. I run back, I jump into a waste bin, close the lid over me, and I'm sealed in there. No one can see me. And then I turn on my dark vision, which allows me to see, people out behind walls and see their cones of vision and see sound. So they walk up and around the corner right in front of me, and then they stop right in front of my trash bin. Like, there's nothing I can do. There's 5 of them, and I'm playing, first of all, a non-lethal mission. I have no sleep darts, so my only option is to open the lid, blink, and get the fuck out. So I'm trying to sit there. I'm thinking, like, what I'm going to do. And at that moment, a guard turns the corner, looks down the hall, startles all the weepers. They all head down the hallway towards him. And then he, pulls out his pistol, and which is, by the way, beautiful animation. Pulls out his pistol, blam, blam, caps 2 of them. The rest come at him, blam, caps another one. Then one runs at him. He swords it, pulls out his sword, swords it. It falls to the ground, and he points his gun at it and executes it on the ground. Then points his gun to the last one, executes it just as it comes up right on him. They could have taken him. I mean, the game has that kind of freedom where they might have taken him, but he had some sort of advantage in the situation that he killed them all. Then he walks off. Boom. I'm free. I was like, well, that's really fucking convenient for me because I didn't know what I was going to do. And now there's no enemies, and I'm free to go up the building, get inside the ball. No problem. And that's kind of what this game's all about.
Yeah, I know that. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, that is the best thing about the game. Like what I was talking about in the main part of the podcast, trying to describe this game to people who haven't played something like it. The anecdotes, the things that emerge out of the game that weren't pre-planned, the fact that we can talk about all these levels and we each have our own crazy stories from them. Like when I went to assassinate Lord Regent, He's in his office, and he has a little balcony. And then on either side of the balcony, there is kind of a little bridge that goes across. And he's so surrounded by people, I was having trouble killing him because the guards would come running in. They had caught me earlier trying to kill him. And so they kind of stormed the area, and then they didn't leave. So what I finally ended up doing was shooting one of them with a dart, then setting from the balcony. They all came running over. Then I blinked across the room over to the bridge, set 3 spring razors. So they followed me. Spring razor gets the first guy, gets the second guy, gets the third guy. But there's 10, 12 more guys behind him running after me. I run across the bridge, and there is one of those weird electronic Tesla things that shoot beams at you and kill you. I've reprogrammed that to shoot enemies. So they come through, it kills one of them, the rest of them back off. I poke my head out just enough to bring them through. And finally, between that thing taking them out, my spring razors, and just me picking them off from a distance with my dart gun, I was able to take out all these guys and get back to the room. You can come up with such creative ways to deal with these situations. It's so fucking awesome.
Well, one of the cool things that I found, with that situation where you have, 15 guys on you, when I first started playing the game, I kind of got frustrated because I don't really have that parrying mechanic down very well. And, I would get killed really easily. So I came up with a method for taking out, that many people. The quickest way I figured out to take that many guys out. And I'm playing a lethal playthrough. I'm just having fun killing people this time around and learning the levels. Is to run in, shoot somebody leading with a crossbow bolt, and then stab them because you throw them off balance, which lets you do the one-hit kill. And then you can just hit the next guy, shoot, and then when you're already attacking, your reticle will come up near another guy and just shoot and then attack. They won't typically attack you while you're doing a kill animation, and that allows you time to back away because that gives you a buffer, so then you can just block the next guy, then shoot, and then attack again. I took out a whole platoon of guards that way.
That almost sounds like Batman-ish, in the Arkham games when you're doing stuff like that.
Dude, it feels Batman-ish sometimes. I've definitely come down on guys almost in the way I wanted some things from Arkham City or Arkham Asylum to be. I'd be blink down, choke a guy out, have him on my shoulder, blink back out. Then the other guy turns what the, where'd my buddy go? I don't know. Where did he go? I don't know. Stuff like that makes that game so interesting. I have a question though for the Lord Regent. There's got to be a non-lethal, right?
There is.
Oh, there's a great one. There's a great one.
Okay, I don't want to know what it is.
Now, Colin, I want to tell you that I have also been doing the non-lethal playthrough when it comes to the marks. I do all the non-lethal finishers, and then I go and kill them.
You can do that with Lord Legion as well. And in fact,
yes,
if you do the non-lethal path with him, it's really cool to follow up on that and go back to him and see what happens.
Well, it's just right down the area from where you initiate that non-lethal.
So, if the Pendleton twins, if I went the non-lethal route and put them into their rock mines, and then I went back and killed them, does that play a role in the game, or does it just switch my outcome?
So I actually did that because I wasn't really paying attention when I talked to Slackjaw. I was just oh, sure, whatever, I'll do that. And so I thought he just wanted the combo to the art dealer's safe. So what I did was got the combo and killed the Pendletons. And then when I came back to him, he was like, oh, I thought we had a deal. You killed the Pendletons, and I don't even give a shit about the art save code anymore. So
what, really?
Yeah, it reacts to that if you do it. Yeah.
Why did he not care about that doesn't make any sense contextually.
Or maybe he was I think he actually said I'll take it, but our deal's off because you killed them.
Yeah, just because I don't have to fulfill my end of the bargain because you didn't fulfill yours. I actually went and took that.
But you
code.
did fulfill yours.
No, see, I would get the information I needed. For example, for that one, I tortured the guy to get the code, and then I tortured him until he died. And then I snuck my way up, finished off the twins, and then I went back to his abbey, which I had found before, and went and entered the code, took the stuff. So I always do the footwork to get the non-lethal kills, but I never turn them in, and then I just kill them.
Hey, so I have a question.
Yeah.
the girl's dad on the I think it's the first mission. Yeah, it's the first mission when you're killing the High Overseer. Did you guys let him live? Well, I guess, Colin, we know the answer for you. Let him live, kill him, or did you poison both of them? Because you can do that, too.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'd say I played that one through several times, and that's the place where I really differed. The first time, I just jumped down, killed the Overseer, and then he attacked me. The guards came in, I kind of ran away. The next time, I poisoned them both. I poisoned him, the Overseer, and then he gets blamed for the death of the guy, and they try to take him away and end up killing him. If you just poison the Overseer. So then I shot a crossbow bolt at the door where the guards were, so they would open the door, and then I shot a bolt at the Overseer, killing him, and then teleported out of the room, and then just disappeared. So that way the guy didn't get blamed when they opened the door, because I caused an alarm to happen slightly, and they opened the door to see what was going on, because the guy yelled out. And then I just killed him, so that guy didn't get blamed because I had witnesses that he didn't do it. I never did the poisoning them both.
See, what I did, I had actually kind of one of those game moments there, too. I had explored the archives and found out, and then the interrogation room, and I found out about the mark that you can leave on him to get him exiled. So,
whoa, what? I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either. That's crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Spoiler section.
This is about. I played that level. If I missed that, I have to go back and play.
What I did was I found out about that. Then I went down in there and I spilled both glasses. So I broke both glasses. So they come in there and they're like, essentially what happens is they're like, what? Oh my God. I'm so sorry. There's no wine to be had. Because I think the Overseer was trying to poison the other guy, right? So, but what had happened is I spilled those glasses, and then I went and did something else because I had some time, and I got seen. So I came back in there. They just come out running because the alarm's going. But what would have happened is both. I don't actually know what would have happened. Both glasses were broken. So I followed the Overseer. Excuse me. He runs. I lose him, but I had also read a text somewhere else in the thing that said he had a safe room. So he has a safe room down in the basement that the only way to get into it is to press the eyeball of a statue. That's a secret lever that opens the door to this safe room. Get in there.
I found that safe room and all the stuff that was in there, but I didn't know that it had context like that.
Yeah. So get him in there, right? Not choke him out, take him to the interrogation room, strap him in this interrogation room, and then I put a branding iron on his face.
That's fucking awesome,
which brands him with the exile mark, which he is now not only is he's it's illegal for anyone to even help him, to give him aid or house him in the entire empire.
Did anybody else notice that the non-lethal aspect of this game is often much more brutal than death?
That's why I've been going. Well, it's also much harder, I found. So that's why I've been playing that way first, personally.
Yeah, but the targets would be better off dead usually. When you give Lady Boyle to the creepy dude, or exiling that guy.
Lady Boyle is just taken by a guy that loves her, right? Or is there something else there?
It seemed creepier than that to me.
But have you guys done any of the Granny Rag stuff?
Yeah,
some of it.
Voiced by Susan Sarandon. She's a great character, I thought.
She's the only character I think the voice acting was good on.
What's the poison? Yeah, there's a lot of bad voice acting, but what's the poison thing that she asks you to do in the distillery? I couldn't figure that out.
You have to go and put the rat. You have to go into the doctor's office, grab the rat, and then
where's the doctor's office?
Dr. Galvani. You go to it twice, as far as I know.
Yeah, it's in one of the courtyards that's surrounded by guards. There's a door, and that leads in there, and then there's some guards in there, and you can go up to his laboratory and find the rat.
Yeah, and he's all dissected and stuff, and you grab him, and then you go back to the Whiskey Boys alley, and then put it in the still that's in Slackjaw's room.
Oh, I didn't do that. I went into his area the second time because of something.
Yeah, there's a side quest there with the Pendletons. He's the one who makes the Pendletons go away.
Yeah, the non-lethal end.
No, the Slackjaw is.
Yeah, he's the head of the Whiskey Boys.
No, the scientist. I mean.
Oh,
I went there the second time for something.
there's a safe in there. That might be what you went in for.
Where is that located in the map?
Like I said, it's like, so from the first level, you go through the first, what are those like power gates called?
The white.
The electric gate things.
Yeah,
white light gates.
I don't remember if it's past the first one or past the second one. I think it's past the first one, and I believe it's on the left.
Maybe, because the art dealer's on the right. Yeah, I've been in that one, but only in the second time I went in there. Okay, I didn't go in there the first time. I didn't realize those were doors I could go into the first time.
Yeah, they're kind of set back, but if you that's why I keep the markers on. Rob mentioned that you can turn them off. I don't know if I can in the console version, but
I turn them off too.
Oh, I keep them on and then explore. Like I just explore the entire area, so that way when I eventually know where I'm going to go, then I can just head that direction. But I just blanket areas and try to find everything I can.
An interesting point to bring up, though. Speaking of UI, that I wanted to get to in the main section, we didn't. What I personally do is I turn off stance. So I only know my stance by essentially where my knife is held, or just keep track of it. I don't have the. I do have a what do you call it? Targeting thing. Except reticle. I turned it a reticle. I turned that to simple, so it's just a little dot, and I turned the opacity to like 40, so it's like almost invisible.
Yep, I did the same thing.
The only thing that's like really blatant is my life and my magic meter thing. And then I don't have markers at all.
Contextual though. That's the way to do it.
Oh, my life and magic meter?
Yeah, you can set it so they only come up when they change.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, that's a good idea. And then no markers. I had to cheat once on the bridge because I could not. I like just passed where I turn off the floodlights, and I thought it was going to be in the last section of the bridge. And I searched for fucking ever. I was like hitting Rob up on Steam, and I was like, where the fuck do you turn the floodlights off?
I will say this. There are points when you need those markers, unless you've played it before. There are two areas in specific in my mind where I never would have found them. They're just not hinted at well enough. One of them's a key, and one of them's a body drop-off point. That you just...
Yeah, I wouldn't...
I'll flick it on.
Did you find the flood thing?
I did on accident.
Yeah, I found those. Yeah,
now,
same as Jordan,
when you guys,
on accident.
And I scaled that shit too, so I don't know.
Now, did you go all the way up to the top and then look down at Sokolov's building? How did you get down?
Once I got Sokolov?
No. So you take off the lights, and then you can actually keep going higher. Did you go higher than that, like all the way up to the top?
Oh, the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I got that achievement, like top of the world or whatever.
Yeah. How did you get down from there?
Well, I crossed the bridge, and then I jumped in. Then I jumped off of it and blinked into the water.
See, I was so high I couldn't cross the bridge. Like I was up high enough, like that. I ran and jumped off into the water. It was like amazing to look back and see how high I jumped and fallen. Now with Blink, have you guys figured out how to break your fall with Blink?
You can't at certain heights. If you have enough momentum, you can't. The only way you can really break your fall is with possession.
Gotcha.
At certain heights, so you can possess into somebody, and any height you fall from is fine.
The possession on the PlayStation version is kind of hard to use. I have to select several times. Like it'll make the cloud over the guy, and then I'll release, and it won't do anything. You
have to hold it. Well, on PC, you have to keep holding it on the guy, and it'll be like, and kind of go there. It'll fuck up if you don't hold it long enough.
Oh, so I thought I just was selecting, and then when I released it, that's how it seemed to work.
No, it's not just like a click. It's like you want to hold on that guy for a second.
How does it work on PS3? I know a lot of people were concerned because it's published by Bethesda.
That's one thing I wanted to cover later on, and that's looks good. There is screen tearing.
That's on the PC version as well. Even with VSync on it, screen tears on the PC version. You have to force VSync in your NVIDIA settings or whatever they use for ATI.
Oh, I haven't seen that because I think I forced that with a different game already.
I'll say it's a beautiful game, but I have people that won't watch me play it, like my friend that I'm always showing games to. he thought it was a cool concept, but it makes him sick. Like the style, the colors, the way it goes through, like the movement. Like he's watched me play first-person games before, and it's no problem. But with the tearing and just the way things are proportioned and stuff, he starts getting a migraine.
It's got a really low field of view on the console. You can adjust that up to 85 on the PC, which is still kind of low end. But
I turned it all the way up.
Yeah, I did too. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But that's probably what's causing that for your buddy.
Another thing we didn't really talk about was the art, by the way. And it's spectacular. It's a beautiful game. I mean, it's not the most high-res texture game I've ever played, for sure. But it's all about, like, it's like a watercolor painting, practically. It's beautiful, you know?
Yeah, I actually get kind of mad when people complain about the graphics. Oh, the graphics aren't very good. Like, look at the art, you asshole. Look at the design of everything. Game. It's beautiful.
And the animations are really cool, too. Like, there's a lot of really cool animations in that game.
Oh, the heart. Have you guys used the heart a lot?
I love the heart.
Oh, yeah, so amazing. Much.
Like listening to people's darkest fears and like secrets, and like if you put it on the like most of the maids, it's like there's not a day that this girl doesn't want to kill herself. Or one of them was this woman just wants to lay down in the middle of the road and wait for death. I was just like, oh my god, like it's definitely sets mood with that. Now, is that the Empress's heart? You think?
That was my guess, but I never really looked at it.
I thought it was. Oh, I thought it was just kind of a. It's kind of just like a more of a metaphor for like something more grand, like in the scheme of the universe, because like the heart almost has a personality.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and if you listen, it sounds like the Empress.
Well, she says things. She talks about things like as though she knows them personally.
Exactly, like this happened here.
And sometimes it says things about itself.
Yeah, it's just
like it's like
awesome
semi-conscious.
Like I will say this: I like that they left the heart and the outsider totally mysterious.
Like, have you triggered the heart when you're just in the middle of nowhere, like at the compound, and it's just like it'll say something like, "I am not alive, but I have never been given the gift of death."
Oh yeah, well, it'll say random stuff about itself, and then the surrounding area, like if you do it in the Hound pub or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I meant too. Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, they circle themselves around a candle and cut their palms to seal their deal, and the blood sizzle as it hit the flames. Like it just really sets mood. I mean, each person has like 6 things you can read off them, and each area has like 9 or 10, depending on where you're at.
And some of the things that, in general, by the way, that the voiceover, like talking about the rich world. I mean, there are some things that are so interesting that I just want to know more about. There's a moment where Emily and the Admiral guy, who's kind of the boss at the Hounds pub, I can't remember his name, something with an H. Anyway,
I don't remember.
She's asking him about naval battles, and she's like, oh, tell me about naval battles. He's like, it's not for young girls, and she says, well, I'm going to be the Empress. Aren't I going to have to hear all about that? And he's like, well, yes. She's like, okay, well, have you ever fought pirates? He's like, yes, that's happened quite a lot. And he's like, I hear they have witches, and sometimes the witches will cast a storm, and the storm will make the seas go crazy and turn their enemies' boats over. And he's like, well, yes, that happens, but I don't think we should talk about this anymore.
Yep.
And I was
Havelock,
like, what?
That's who it is, by the way.
Havelock. And I was like, what? I want to know more about that. That's fucking stuff like that makes the game feel like a real world, you know?
There was a point in the game where I actually felt bad. It was right at the beginning, and when you first get to that little hub area around the bar, and I was walking around just, stealing things because Corvo's a huge kleptomaniac and no one seems to give a shit.
And he eats everybody's food.
And just shoves it in his mouth right there. He doesn't even stock it up for later. Just
sardines bread.
I got to say, I got a bone jar that made, or a bone charm that made food more healing, and that is essential, dude.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, I never really have a problem with how much life I have ever.
You're playing a stealthy maneuver. I'm playing up in the face. Yeah.
Well, at any rate, I was going around this area, like just stealing stuff, and I walked out to this little shed next to the beach, and robbed it blind. And then I played the little recording there, and it was Sam, the boatman's house. And I was like, oh, I just robbed a dude who lives underneath a broken old boat, like lying in the dirt. I actually felt that. Oh,
yeah. I know. It's kind of like, give him a fucking house, guys. What the fuck? You put him in the cell at least, you know?
Have you guys run across the inventor spying on the girl in the tub?
Yeah. Well, you have to, don't you?
I don't know if that was a set piece or not.
I think you have to. I think that's where you find him when they're like, go find da-da-da. See, again, not having the markers around that area is kind of a bitch, but it also does make you learn things well, because people are always in different places, so you're like, all right, where the fuck are you? Like, you know, every time. But having the markers in that, not having the markers in that place is kind of a bitch, but I still do it. But not having the markers and in the main area, I would suggest to you, Jordan, just turning them off for the rest of the game, because it forces your hand to just really, as if you were there, you just have to look around. I've never been here before. Look at street signs, look around, you know, it's really interesting.
I'll have to take up on that.
So you never beeline, ever.
I never beeline. Like,
no, but
I try to take a roundabout way.
You can't beeline, though. That's the point. Is there's no way to beeline. You have no goal. You're like, I'm going to look around and explore until I find that thing you told me about.
Now, if you do that, if you turn off the HUD like that, do you still get the markers for the hearts in the room for the hearts?
Yeah, if you have the heart on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can turn those off too, and then when you do that, it'll just, you can move your cursor around the screen with the heart out, and it'll start to beat when you're pointing in the right direction.
That's fucking.
That's how the hardcore guys are playing. I've been reading a lot of write-ups from kind of the hardcore thief community, so that's what they've been doing.
That's amazing.
Are you doing that?
No, I'm not doing that, but I probably will in the future, because some of that stuff's randomized.
Well, if they're randomized, I might do it on my next playthrough, because I'm going to do a murder fest on my next playthrough, by the way. Because I'm not killing. I won't even use a spring trap this game, you know?
Dude, so when you cut off somebody's head, or when you, when I killed all three of the Boyle sisters or whatever.
You killed all three of them?
Oh, yeah. They were cowering. Anyway.
Where'd you get them?
They were all, when I finally got done killing all the rest of the people in the house, they were
oh, I see.
Upstairs, huddled right all next to each other, all like in the same dress but different colors. And the one was in the middle that I needed to kill, so I went and like, she's like, no, I promise I didn't do anything. I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, ha, stab. And my guy like grabs her, pulls her up off the ground, and just shoves the blade like up underneath her neck. Then I go to the next one, and I get behind her, and pulls her up and slits her throat. But it's the third one that really felt like, I was like, oh, wow, dude. Like, it made me feel like personal, like I killed this person. It was, she was on the ground cowering, and he pulls her up by the wrist and holds her up. And then you see her get close, and like he's giving her a hug, and she's like looking at you like this blank mask looking to the side of your screen. And then you see her just go, and jerk. And you see the blade just coming straight out the back, and you can't really see where the blade's coming from because she's so close. Like, he's just holding her and sliding the blade through her. I was like, oh, that was absolutely brutal.
I love the ones, too, where he, like, covers their mouth, and you almost imagine him going, like, shh, this is a good thing.
Oh, man, I can't wait for that playthrough. I know for a fact I'm going to have more fun on my second playthrough, because I'm going to understand what's going on more clearly, and I'm going to be able to more effectively explore and really figure out and like really get the mechanics down. You know, when I first started playing, I struggled a little bit with being like, okay, I mean, like you should in a new game. You're getting your footing, you're figuring out what you have, like, or as you should as a Corvo even. Like, someone's like, you have these powers now, and so he's like, you know what I mean? Like, anyone would get better at his powers as time goes on. So when I go back through, I'm gonna be a fucking murder machine,
dude. And I played my first run through almost all stealthy. I had a few actiony moments, like there was the Lord Regent one I was talking about, and one other one later in the game. But playing through and my balls out, kill everyone game now is super fun as well, just as fun.
Yeah. I'm killing everyone next time, and then I'm ghosting.
That's the fun part, dude. Well. Like Blink, I love the responses when you use Blink, because the way they show Blink, it makes it feel like you're moving very quickly from one point to another. But I think in actuality, you are completely like blinking out of existence and blinking into existence, because I blinked down in front of people in the hub world where you get all your missions, and they'll be like, "Oh, I must have fainted there for a second. Hello."
I think actually the way the game does it is it's a speed increase, because that's what I was talking about earlier. Well, I think actually that was on our failed one where, or did I tell the story about where I killed that woman and triggered that?
Oh no,
where I
you haven't
broke the
told that.
game?
That was when our recording failed, so you should definitely tell that. That's an awesome story.
So what happened was when I was at the masquerade, I got Lady Boyle, and I figured out who she was, and I didn't really know what to do, and I kind of wanted to just get through that level. I was kind of like, I'm not sick of it, but I was like, all right, I just want to finish this level. So I fucking choke her out, and everyone, just in the middle of everyone, and like people are like, hey, and everyone's like, oh my god, and the guards like start chasing me. So I just like blink, 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 like get to the kitchen, like run down the stairs, get down there, throw the door open. I see the guy that I'm supposed to get her to that's like in the sewer area, and there's a railing between me and him, and I could just walk down around it and hand her to him, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna blink down there. So I blinked down there, and the rag doll of her or whatever on my shoulder catches on the railing as I'm blinking down there. So she just like super spins and then just like hits the deck on his boat, which simultaneously triggers both endings. So it's like assassinated Lady Boyle, and then at the same time it triggers the animation where the guy's like, thank you so much for not killing Lady Boyle. So I literally broke the game. I did both things at one time. I triggered the non-assassination animation while getting the assassination, and I was just like, all right, that's awesome. So I just let it ride, and that counted as an assassination, you know, on my kill screen. And when I went back to the Hounds pub, they all said I assassinated her. So it all counted as an assassination, but it triggered that other animation, and I did not mean to kill her. But as I blinked through it, she caught on the railing.
By the way, I gotta love the fact assassination animation. Like, is that like a song that's being written by Schoolhouse Rock?
Assassination animation. That's actually gonna be Eminem's next hit. So
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Well, sweet.
Now,
you guys have anything else to cover here? I mean, are we gonna spoil more things?
We could talk about it all night, but I think the bottom line's pretty clear. The game is even more flexible than we like hinted at during our main playthrough, because like hearing all this stuff, I spent a lot of times in these levels. I'm hearing you guys talk about things I never even saw, and vice versa. So
yeah, and that's an awesome part of the game. But I feel like the things we said in the podcast, or this like the main body of it, are still true. It's just that it's just hard to talk about some of the specifics. Like you said, it's hard to kind of quantify this game, you know?
Right.
Indeed.
Well, all right, guys. I think we covered it, huh? Yeah? No objections? Compliments? Comments?
I object. I didn't get to hear about the ending.
At the ending, Corvo has sex with the Overseer.
Jesus.
It's crazy.
Oh, by the way,
it's super graphic.
Yeah. How do you deal with the I guess, Colin, you never probably have experienced the magic negation system that the Overseers have you?
Yes, I have.
How do you deal with that?
Run until it wears off. Or like it wears off really quickly.
Well, and I love the fact that it's truly disorienting. Like, it tells you you can't use magic, but then it gives you random, like, your health changes randomly.
Yeah, it does do weird things, but it only lasts a few seconds, and it only happens. See, you're playing the combat mode again, so I've only run into that very rarely. So if you're not out in the open, and like essentially what they're trying to do is not let you blink away from a fight and make you fight.
Well, it even disorients like your timing and everything. It's brutal.
I'll tell you this: if you dart those guys before they're aware of you, you can take them out like a normal guy.
How? Where do you shoot them? Like, they have the
face.
iron. They had the golden mask plates on.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, most of those guys I took out, I had the instant knockout upgrade for the non-lethal darts, so that's what I was using. And you can also,
that's so weird.
You can also drop kill them in one hit.
That's something I've never had to worry about being a non-lethal player this time. That's so weird. That's something I've never had to even think about.
Oh yeah, dude, those guys are brutal. Like they take away your ability to do a lot of stuff, and you can't just like shoot them in the head.
Oh.
Like I resort to my gun a lot, or my gun and my crossbow, because it throws them off balance, not for the damage. Like I use it to throw people off balance and then go in with my sword to kill them. And
Dude,
with
see,
those guys, it doesn't work very well.
I just treat them like being a non-lethal player, my first time through it, I treat them like any other person, and I sneak up from behind them and I choke them out and I put their body somewhere. And that's so I've never even had to think about that. That's cool. Interesting. All right. Well, I think that officially covers our spoiler section for Dishonored on this week's Bag of Games Game Out Loud podcast. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming on. You already got your official thank yous, so we're just going to kind of wrap this up and say we will see you next week, everybody, and enjoy Dishonored.
Shabbat shalom.